You think your first 100,000 changes everything because it's a big number. The strange part isn't the number. It's everything before it. Before that point, every emergency feels personal, expensive, and badly timed. One repair, one bad month, and your whole plan starts wobbling again. So you work harder. Then somehow your money still looks exactly the same. Then the raise arrives, and for 5 minutes, you feel like you won. By dinner, that raise already has leather seats and a monthly payment. The salesman calls it affordable. Your stomach calls it a trap. You can finally look successful. You just won't be much freer. That night, you ask a question nobody around you can answer. Why does everyone say the first 100,000 is so different? Not a million. Not retirement. Just that first stubborn pile of capital. Across the table sits Charlie Munger, looking completely unimpressed by your question. He doesn't ask what the car costs. He asks what it delays. Then he makes you guess what actually changes at 100,000. You say safety. Then status. Then confidence. He shakes his head each time. The answer, he says, isn't inside the number, it's inside the machine. With 10,000 working, the movement is easy to miss. A decent return might buy dinner. A bad week can erase it. But keep adding capital, month after month, and the weight starts changing. At 100K, the same percentage finally becomes noticeable. Not retirement money, just enough to join the team. The first snowball is miserable because you push everything. Once it grows, every turn picks up more than the turn before. That's the first change. Effort stops being the only thing pushing forward. Munger's point is blunt. The first 100K comes from behavior. You earn, you keep a gap, and you put that gap somewhere productive. Time starts helping quietly, so most people quit early. At 7%, that base might average 7,000 yearly. But averages aren't promises. Some years rise, some fall, and losses are real. The bigger change is boring. You become someone who can delay a reward. You ask for a faster route because of course you do. He shuts that door immediately. No gambling, no miracle stock, no fake certainty. He gives you 3 levers instead. Earn more, keep more, own more. Then he points at your car deadline. The challenge has already started. Reach 100K without making your life miserable. That's the test. Before you can ask how, the doors close and the old station disappears. You wake with ink on your hand and 3 words nearby. Earn, keep, own. Simple enough to remember, uncomfortable enough to matter. By 9 o'clock, everyone already thinks you bought it. You take one last drive, and yeah, it feels incredible. Then you notice the payment doesn't just cost money. It costs future choices. That evening, real life gives the dream a less dramatic explanation. A broken fridge shouldn't feel like a financial emergency, but it does. You add everything honestly. No car value fantasy, no pretending debt doesn't count. Your real starting point isn't 18,000, it's 14,920. That car could delay the goal for years. Suddenly, it looks expensive. You don't feel heroic. You feel annoyed, disappointed, and strangely relieved. Next morning, you return the keys before changing your mind. Saying no creates space. It still doesn't build wealth. Define the finish line. Investable net worth, not expensive stuff. Cash for emergencies stays safe. Long-term money gets time to handle market swings. First, kill debt that grows faster than your investments might. It isn't cinematic. It just stops yesterday's spending from taxing tomorrow. You find small leaks everywhere, apps, fees, deliveries, things you barely remember buying. You don't become miserable. You just stop paying extra for being unprepared. Cooking goes badly at first. That's fine. Cheap mistakes still teach useful skills. You open a diversified account and read the risk pages. The transfer happens before your brain can invent something more exciting to buy. Payday arrives. For once, your future gets paid before your weekend does. The first social test shows up immediately, dressed like a harmless Friday night. You don't disappear from life. You change the plan and still show up. A money plan you hate won't survive long enough. 1 month later, the progress looks tiny. It also looks real. Cutting costs helps, but you quickly see the limit. Income needs attention too. The opportunity isn't glamorous. It's a broken process everyone keeps avoiding. So you learn the tools after work, one clumsy tutorial at a time. Most nights, it feels slow. Then one night, the whole thing finally clicks. Next morning, your new skill solves an unexpected problem. Suddenly, you're not asking for more money. You're showing why you're worth it. On the way out, one question opens a second income stream. Your first freelance meeting is awkward, over-prepared, and much better than avoiding it. You almost undercharge just to feel safe. Then you price the actual work. The client says yes before you finish crossing the street. Finally, the goal feels connected to something you control. You start after dinner, tired but weirdly excited to build something that's yours. The work follows you into print shops, buses, and grocery runs. You learn quickly that side income also creates side responsibilities, so you set boundaries early before every evening belongs to somebody else. The first delivery isn't perfect. It is useful, clear, and on time. That first payment feels bigger than the amount because you created it yourself. You split it 4 ways, including a small celebration. The dinner tastes better because it fits the plan instead of attacking it. 20,000 isn't the headline. It's proof the system works twice. You stop asking about luck and start repeating Tuesday. At work, the ugly project becomes your best argument for a raise. You bring people in and make the process easier. A task that took 6 hours now takes 40 minutes and fewer apologies. This time, you walk into the room with numbers, not hope. The raise finally comes. And now you know exactly where it should go. For 10 minutes, you start spending the raise in your head. Then the total appears, and the view suddenly looks extremely expensive. You stay put, improve the place a little, and raise the automatic transfer. You spend on a chair that saves your back, not your image. The freelance work becomes real when you treat it seriously. Separate books make the money less exciting and the decisions much clearer. Your second client has a completely different problem, which forces you to grow. You watch boxes move instead of pretending you know everything. The solution comes together at sunrise, right beside yesterday's coffee mug. The quarter ends. You're still far away, but moving faster. More income brings responsibility, which nobody makes glamorous. You learn to lead without acting like the loudest person in the room. The gross raise looks impressive. The amount you can actually use is smaller. So you raise the transfer now, before your lifestyle notices anything changed. The old phone suddenly feels embarrassing, even though it works perfectly. You use a waiting rule. Desire gets 30 days to prove it's serious. 3 weeks later, you can't even remember what problem it solved. Next, you stop selling isolated tasks and offer a recurring service. You remove one dangerous word from the agreement: unlimited. The retainer gives the business something your salary already had: predictability. Soon, doing everything yourself becomes the thing slowing everything down. Delegation feels slower at first because teaching takes longer than doing. Then the first delegated mistake arrives, right in front of the client. You don't hide it. You fix it, own it, and keep the relationship. The mistake becomes a checklist, which is how painful lessons start earning rent. That month, the business earns enough to feel real, not just encouraging. You move the money before excitement turns it into furniture, gadgets, or nonsense. Then the market drops, because timing enjoys making beginners uncomfortable. A few bad days erase months of visible gains, and your confidence follows. Your finger sits over the button long enough to feel ridiculous. So you read the plan written by calm you, not frightened you. The plan never promised a smooth line. It promised time and diversification. You keep contributing because the plan still makes sense. That morning, nothing magical happens. You simply stop reacting. The balance fell. Your system still became stronger. Just when things feel stable, your laptop dies during the biggest presentation yet. You finish on a whiteboard because panic isn't a backup. The repair costs more than your first monthly investment. And this is where the boring cash buffer finally gets its applause. The number drops, but the problem ends. That's what the buffer was for. 2 days later, your family calls with a second surprise. You spend Saturday carrying buckets instead of finishing client work. Helping feels good. Watching the goal move backward does not. For once, you wonder whether any of this is worth it. Your answer is to work more, which is usually your answer to everything. A week later, your body files a complaint before your calendar does. You miss a friend's birthday for a client who paid late. He says something annoying because it's true. You're building freedom like a prison. That sentence follows you home and sits beside the 100,000 chart. The next morning, you change the plan instead of blaming yourself. Sunday feels uncomfortable at first. Then it feels like being a person again. A sustainable plan grows slower than burnout and lasts much longer. One client creates huge stress and almost no profit. Walking away costs revenue immediately and gives your evenings back immediately. The graph bends down again. This time you don't call it failure. 2 weeks later, a better client finds you through work you genuinely enjoyed. They want clear systems, reasonable hours, and no emergency messages at midnight. You charge more, promise less chaos, and somehow become easier to hire. The new agreement pays better and doesn't require you to be constantly available. 42,000 arrives with less drama and a much healthier calendar. Winter comes. The transfers keep moving even when motivation stays in bed. The account creeps toward 50,000 so slowly you almost stop noticing. Then one ordinary Tuesday the line reaches 50,000. You expect fireworks. Mostly you feel tired and wonder what comes next. The next morning, the account moves more than your earliest side job paid. Not daily and not always upward. The base has weight. The money that earns money stays inside, trying to earn more money. At the business, you start turning repeated work into documented steps. You record what you do, including the little decisions you never wrote down. Then you hire help for the work that doesn't need your judgment. Training is messy. The second week is better. The fourth week feels different. For the first time, a client gets an answer while you're choosing tomatoes. The moment looks small. The system worked without you. A month later, you attend the entire graduation. Nobody congratulates your workflow. They just notice you're actually there. Then a client disappears for reasons your checklist can't control. This time the business bends without taking your whole week down with it. The replacement comes from a relationship built months before you needed it. The project is smaller, calmer, and surprisingly profitable. At 60,000, progress starts feeling less like a rumor. Then the dealership calls with a newer car and a supposedly better deal. This time, saying no takes 8 seconds instead of 48 hours. You still need transportation, so you buy reliability instead of applause. The purchase fits the numbers, which makes it feel completely different. Wealth hasn't made you flashy. It has made a normal weekend easier. Year 3 begins quietly. You keep the appointment with yourself. Tax season is still annoying. It is no longer a scavenger hunt. Good records don't create wealth, but they stop confusion from eating it. You switch from checking every hour to reviewing the plan every quarter. You pay your helper more because keeping good people protects good systems. For a while, profit falls. Growth often looks worse before it works better. The extra capacity lets you chase one opportunity without dropping 3 others. At a conference, one conversation turns into the largest proposal you've written. You spend the train ride cutting promises you can't confidently keep. The room is bigger. The fear feels familiar. That's actually useful. You show them a small team with a clear system. 3 days later, they sign. You read the email 4 times anyway. The first payment pushes the goal close enough to feel dangerous. You don't invest everything. The business still needs oxygen, 83,000. Close enough that you start mentally spending the victory. Then markets fall hard over several weeks, because the story needed honesty. 5,000 disappears on the screen, even though you didn't touch anything. You know volatility is normal. Knowing doesn't stop your stomach from dropping. So you return to the only part you can control. You contribute again, not to prove courage, just to follow the plan. Winter turns into spring. The account stops being exciting and starts recovering. Then 90,000 appears between 2 ordinary meetings. Your friend buys the car, and it still looks great. You feel the envy. You just don't let it make the next decision. One final project could close the gap without wrecking your life. The last project isn't glamorous. It's helping a clinic waste less time. You spend 2 days watching the bottleneck before suggesting a single thing. The fix is simple because the observation was patient. The staff catches problems your neat presentation never predicted. You adjust it that night, then stop working before midnight. Then the payment gets delayed, right when every other bill shows up. The reserves cover the gap. Annoying, yes. A crisis, no. 4 days later, the money lands while you're stuck in an elevator. You split it correctly before the adrenaline gets creative. The total stops at 99,740. You actually laugh. After years of work, the final gap is one tiny evening job. The owner pays $400 before you reach the sidewalk. There it is, $100,140. No music starts, nobody notices. The city keeps doing city things. And that's why the moment feels real. You know exactly what it cost. The next day, you visit the place where the whole thing almost changed. You could afford more of it now. Weirdly, you need it less. The first change isn't the account. It's how calmly you enter the building. A replacement fridge is still expensive. It no longer threatens the entire year. At work, you say no to a bad demand without imagining immediate disaster. You can consider a better job based on fit, not pure panic. You negotiate for time and autonomy because salary isn't your only protection now. The business can test an idea without betting your entire life, and for the first time, an ordinary afternoon feels partly yours. The number created options. Your habits made them usable. Here's the math people notice. Percentages become meaningful on a larger base. 7% on 100K is roughly 7,000 before costs. It won't arrive on schedule, and bad years happen. But reinvested gains can begin earning gains of their own over long periods. Now contributions and capital can push the next milestone. Saving no longer requires a fresh argument every month. Discipline isn't something you're trying anymore. It's normal. A normal repair becomes a line item, not a personal tragedy. You can leave bad work before it drains you. You can test a business idea without needing instant rescue. Most important, you finally give compounding something it has always needed: time. 100K isn't magic, and its power differs everywhere. Cost of living, taxes, responsibilities, and age change what the milestone means. Define the number clearly. Don't count consumer stuff as wealth. Start with enough cash to stop small surprises from becoming expensive debt. Then raise income. You can only cut so much coffee. Build a paid skill where honest feedback can reach you. Automate the gap even if the first percentage feels almost embarrassingly small. Own diversified assets you understand, and pay attention to fees and risk. Walk away from guaranteed riches, urgent pressure, and anything you can't explain simply. Track monthly or quarterly. Watching every wiggle won't make the future arrive faster. Keep living, or you'll reach the goal angry at everyone. Your timeline will be different. Markets, work, and life refuse to follow scripts. The first 100,000 changes everything because your money finally has real weight. The deeper truth, by the time it changes, you already have.